Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me begin, Mr. Cuccinelli. Did Joe Biden win the 2020 presidential election?
Well, he's the president today, so yes.
Yes, he did win the election. Mr. Speed, that's your answer? He did win the election.
He's the president today, so yes, he won the election.
Well, question of whether or not it's the president and the question of whether or not he won the election are actually two different questions. In your opinion, did he win the election?
He is the president today, and he got the, it's because he won that election, yes.
Okay.
And he won that election because the Hunter Biden story was suppressed and because of Zuckerbucks.
Wow. Mr. Spees, did Joe Biden win the 2020 presidential election?
George Bush won the 2000 and 2004 election. Donald Trump won the 2016 election. Brian Kemp won the 2018 election. And Joe Biden won the 2020 election. All were challenged.
Okay, Ms. Holmes, did Joe Biden win the 2020 election?
I'm assuming you're addressing me, Ms. Evans, and yes, that is correct.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Evans, my apologies, yes. Ms. Weiser, did Joe Biden win the 2020 election? I'd like to stick with you, Ms. Weiser. Weiser, I'm sorry, my apologies. Boy, I'm really messing up names here. I really apologize to everyone. Ms. Weiser, in the aftermath of the 2020 election, the threats to election workers rose significantly. Many election workers targeted by internet rumors, public officials, even by the then President of the United States, and yet they're a key element in our democratic process. Common sense rules are needed to ensure election workers can keep their workplace safe and secure, and I love your opinion. First of all, can more be done to protect poll workers and others who facilitate and support our elections? And then, does the ACE Act do enough, in your opinion, to support safety and security of election workers?
Thank you for your question. Absolutely, more can and must be done to protect election workers in America. The Brennan Center has been actually surveying local election officials for the past several years, and we have documented an alarming spike in threats and harassment of election officials. Just earlier this year, we found that nearly 1 in 3 election officials have been threatened, harassed, or abused for doing their jobs. 45% fear for the safety of their colleagues, and more than 1 in 5 are concerned about being assaulted on the job. And the concerns are actually the highest for election officials that are serving communities of color in America. In addition to facing these threats, they have too few resources to address it. And across the country, election officials are reporting that they do not have the resources to ensure the physical safety and security of their election workers, of their polling places, and of their homes. We've estimated, and this is something that Congress can assist, but in addition, we need to have clear standards that ensure that election officials have the same protections as voters and others against harassment and intimidation. We need to protect their privacy and against doxing, and we need to have baseline national standards that actually reduce the incentive to threaten and harass election officials and depoliticize election administration. These are critical reforms, most of which are in the Freedom to Vote John R. Lewis Act. They are not in the ACE Act, which doesn't at all address the safety concerns of election officials. To the contrary, actually, it has some provisions that increase risks of election officials by empowering partisan polling place observers and preventing election officials from being able to manage polling places to ensure the safety of election workers in the polling places.
Thank you. Mr. Cuccinelli, the subject of the hearing concerns the confidence of American public in the integrity of election process. And I believe Americans, if they have any reason to be concerned, it would be about the efforts of the former president to overturn a fair and legitimate election to retain power and stop the peaceful transfer of power, which has been so fundamental to American democracy. Richard Donahue served as the second highest ranking official at the Justice Department during the Trump administration. He testified under penalty of perjury about a conversation former President Trump had with you on December 31st, 2020. Testified the President asked you whether the Department of Homeland Security could seize voting machines. frankly, a desperate attempt to overturn the election. I note that in my colleague, Ms. Torres, has asked about your response, which is at significant odds with the testimony under perjury. I look forward to your response to her questions.
The gentleman yields